Hey Elijah, welcome back to YouTube, and it's awesome to have you back a second time. The
What's
last
going
time we
on?
had you on the channel was talking about your recent 50K funding that you'd acquired and the fact that you'd taken, at the time, about $7,000 in payouts. You actually went on to almost doubling that and making nearly $13,000 off that one account. So not only did you get your challenge fee refunded, but you made decent profit on the back of that. So well done. And those that watched that previous interview will remember that at the very end of that interview, you mentioned that you were on a 200K challenge at the time. And that's when the video cut short, right? So really wanted to bring you back on. It's been maybe 2 months since then, maybe 6, 7 weeks, something like that. And just to talk about your experiences of those funding accounts and those challenges, and the fact that we've had maybe 2 months of live trading in between there, and any kind of learning curves and lessons that you've had, and the successes that you've had as well, and to provide value to those that are watching and listening this. So like you mentioned earlier, that after passing that 50K funded account, you went straight onto a 200K. And that's something that we talk about quite often, that every time you pass funding, rather than just going 100% on that one account and hoping for the best that you keep it forever, it's diversifying and adding to that portfolio by going on and buying another challenge. Is that the thought process that you had?
Of course, yes. It's always to scale up.
Because like we mentioned before the call, that like if you have one account and you lose it for whatever reason, you're back to nothing again, and that can really hinder your ability to make money, of course, but also it can be detrimental to your emotion. Whereas if you pass an account and you've got a live account, you go and do another challenge and you pass that one, you've got two accounts, so you can afford to lose one, and it's not really going to affect you emotionally, right?
Yeah.
And then so if you keep going, so if you've got two funded accounts and you do another challenge and you pass a third, even if you lose one or two of those accounts, you've still got another one. And then that's something that not only I say, I've seen other trading mentors in the space say a similar thing. And it's about diversifying that portfolio. And that's something that you have done consistently, where you pass the 50K, you're taking payouts, you use some of that money to go and do a 200K. And since then, you've passed that. You've just told me we'll get onto that. And you're also now on to is it a 400K challenge you're doing now?
Yes, 400K challenge.
So exactly, you're doing that, you're diversifying every single time. And so let's go kind of back in time. So we had like May and June, which were obviously really fruitful months, and we're doing really, really well. And there's going to be natural market cycles where you'll find yourself, whether it's a day, whether it's a week, maybe even a month, depending on how many pairs and what kind of strategy you're trading, that you might find yourself in a natural drawdown period. Let's address the elephant in the room. During mid-July, there was a period where if traders were trading the power of two and taking every single trade under the sun, including every single counterplay, without identifying, zooming out what market momentum is giving us, that they could have well taken maybe 4, 5, or 6 losses consecutive on any individual pair traded. And I know that you were trading at the time 3 pairs on the same account. So how did that do for you? Like initially it got you funded, it made you like $13,000. And then what happened after that?
After that, I came into a string of losses. I can't lie. I was on a losing streak because I had popped almost every single trade that presented. And I wasn't really thinking that there needs to be parameters set that in your plan, which is which is a high risk trade, which is a low risk trade, what is high probability and what is low probability. At the time, it wasn't really set in stone to me yet, because the wins were just coming. They were just coming and coming. So my thing was just a basic, if it's in premium, if it's in discount, stuff like that. But the things that we added definitely helped majorly.
Yeah, like we added in like the 4-hour momentum filter, which is incorporating overall 4-hour, which is our trade building time frame anyway, to, okay, if we're bearish overall and we get a directional bias to the upside, are we then going to counter sell? Of course we will, because market momentum and overall structure is to the downside. Whereas on the flip side, if overall market momentum is bullish and we're going to counter sell, we're essentially trading a high risk counter play, and that's filtering out that. And of course, we didn't have that filter in place at the time. And one of the main factors, really, because it wouldn't really have affected anyone. It didn't affect me. I didn't lose any accounts. I didn't go through any major drawdown period. I took maybe 5 or 6 losses on EU alone. But then in the 3-4 weeks since then, I've clawed that right back again, right? So having potentially more pairs traded on that one individual account is where that extra risk element comes into play. And you were trading EU, GU, and dollar Swiss on that one account, which when you're having a good week or a good month, it does really, really well. But also if you go through that natural drawdown period, that can add additional risk, even if you're taking 3 or 4 losses consecutive on one pair, which isn't unheard of, right? Like in any strategy, you could easily take 3 or 4 losses in a row, because this is probabilities and we don't know in what order our wins and our losses are going to come. You might get a win, a loss, win, a loss. You might get 3 wins in a row like we have done the last couple of weeks, or you might get 3 or 4 losses in a row. And that's okay if you're trading 1, perhaps 2 pairs on an account. But if you're trading 3 or more pairs, that's when you're putting your account at risk, your funded account at risk. Not so much personal, but if you've got a max drawdown limit of 10% and you're trading 3 pairs and you take 3 to 4 losses on each, then clearly you're going to lose that account. And that essentially happened to you on the 50K, but while you were trading a 200K challenge. And it was just a case of, this was even before the 4-hour momentum even came in as a filter. You were just like looking at your risk management and be like, okay, what do I need to do here? Maybe it'll take me longer to pass my challenge, and maybe I won't make as much money as soon if I drop 1 pair, but I know that I'm significantly reducing my risk exposure by taking 1 pair out. And that's essentially what you did, right?
Yes, and the time limit definitely plays a factor, because a lot of these firms took out the time limit. So there was nothing to worry about, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. So at that point, what was your emotions like? Like you just lost a 50K funded account, but bear in mind, you'd taken really good payouts from that. So you used that account as a tool to make money, and that worked out. You put some of that money into a 200K challenge. You'd passed the challenge. You were in your phase 2 at the time. And that's when you were in a slight drawdown period on that. You got down to what, -7 on that? I think the max drawdown limit is maybe 10, 12%. So it was at that point you pulled 1 pair out, but continued to trade the same way probably for the next 3 or 4 weeks before the 4-hour momentum filter came out. And how did that affect your emotions when you knew that you'd lost that initial account, but you were obviously zoned in and laser focused on the new account?
At first, it didn't affect me because I felt like I needed to audit something anyways, just because when I was on a string of losses, I was taking too many trades to begin with. So I was already feeling like I needed to take something away. So I was doing testing and seeing what pair usually gives me the range of not too many trades in a week, but consistency at least. So then that's when I dropped GU and kept EU and dollar Swiss for that account. And I left GU for a different account that I have. So I wasn't really affected at all, honestly, just because I do a weekly ASR to begin with, to just keep myself in check.
And like you say that, even though you were live trading, even though you were trading in a stage 2 of a funded account, but you were still doing your ASR at the end of each week. You're still doing your own testing to go, okay, this is how I'm trading. I'm happy with the way it's going, even though maybe hitting a slight drawdown period, which by the way, everyone will do. You can't avoid it. But knowing that, is there anything that I can do to either improve on my edge, or am I doing everything by the book and just letting probabilities play out? So by doing this self-review or this additional testing on the pairs, just how can that benefit me emotionally as well? And you were doing that, and you were posting in the Discord, you were full transparency. And it was the way that you were wording it, like, okay, you know, I full transparency, I've lost my 50K account, but at the same token, I'm doing pretty well on my new account, and it's just a tool. You don't get bogged down based on one challenge or one account. there's always another one around the corner. It doesn't dictate whether you're a successful trader or not. And it certainly doesn't mean that you need to hop onto a different strategy, because if you keep doing that, you're going to get the same results. So again, going back to that 200K, you were like -7%. Then you pulled GU out, and then you ended up hitting your profit target, what, a couple of weeks later, maybe at 5%. So you then were not only a 50K funded trader 2 months ago, you're now a 200K funded trader. So you've gained 4 times the capital, which again shows that complaining about a short-term losing account is nothing. It's temporary. And you never did that. You were just so laser focused. You're like, yeah, okay, whatever. That's old news. I'm focusing on the new one. And then that solid mindset and that determination and consistency has allowed you to then become 4x the funded trader that you were only a few months ago. How do you feel now?
I feel like all the work that I put in, honestly, has been leading up to these moments, honestly. So it's not surprising to me, just because all the challenges that I failed, all the verifications and the funded accounts that I've blown. So coming to this point is really relieving, honestly. But I had to build the mental fortitude to be able to manage these type of funds. So I look at it from a sense that I wasn't yet ready to manage those funds the best way I could have. So I look at it as a growth period, honestly, as a growth period.
Exactly what you said there. Like, if you were to first to stumble across trading and you knew nothing about it, and then someone said, oh, here's 400K, you've got a max 10% drawdown, but you can make as much money as you want. You've got a maximum upside potential. If someone was literally handed that on a plate with a strategy, they're probably not going to do very well. Why? Because they haven't got any skin in the game. They haven't experienced anything. Whereas if you were 3, 4, 5, 7 years in, or maybe 1 to 2 years in, and you'd already experienced drawdown periods, passing challenges, getting payouts, losing accounts, and that cycle a couple of times, you're much more experienced. And it's from those periods where you actually learn from it. And you've learned so much, especially in the last 2-3 months, by going through various funded accounts, taking payouts, being successful. Okay, going through a drawdown period, what do? I just alter my risk management. I've done that, then seeing the benefit of doing that. And even though losing that account initially, passing another one, and it's just showing that your solid headspace is paying off long-term based on the experiences that you'd had. That must feel incredible. And well done for becoming recently 200K funded. And what's the next stage? Like, are you going and doing more funding?
Oh yeah, so currently I have 2 200K accounts right now, working on a 400K, really just trying to get to $1 million funding by the end of the year, honestly.
Awesome.
So a lot of my goals have been knocked off, honestly, just thanks to you guys and to Rewired. That's been a big help.
Nice, man. And the dedication, don't forget, that you've put in, and that focus. Like, you go from 0 funding to $1 million. It's never going to be like pass the challenge, pass the challenge, pass the challenge, pass the challenge, million. You're going to pass a few and lose a few along the way. Even the very best traders out there, you'll still succumb to probabilities, and no one has a 100% strike rate. And even if you have a 50 to 60% strike rate, life can get in the way, and you can easily miss a winning trade that would have got you across the line and avoided maybe 2 or 3 losses after that. And that's just the natural cycles of being a Forex trader. It's not about, bagging crazy amounts of money and never taking a loss and then jumping on a private jet. That's just what social media has portrayed, right? Real life is you have to go to work, you're getting up early, maybe you miss your alarm. Those like myself that have young children, sometimes you'll miss a trade, sometimes you'll miss a losing trade, and it might be a blessing, but at the same time, you can't celebrate because you could miss winning trades too. And that's something that we need to be openly talking about. And there's a lot of transparency in this interview. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. It's not all about celebrating the wins, because again, that's not real life. Like even if you go and run a business, you're never going to hit profit every single week, and sometimes not every single month. You're going to go through real turmoil at some point, but then as long as you stay disciplined and you evolve with how the market is delivering to you, you can then come out the other end stronger and wiser through the lessons that you've learned. So again, like going through that cycle, you were 50K funded, you took payouts, you lost it, you became 200K funded, and you're in profit because you got that, what, a couple of days ago, you started trading live on there. Yeah. And you must be like at least 3, maybe even 6% up on that account right now. So with this 200K live account that you're trading right now, and I believe you've added a trade copier with your 400K challenge, so you're trading them both the same. Are you still going ahead with trading 2 pairs only on that account? And how much percentage are you risking per trade on that?
Yeah, I'm risking 1% just because I'm not trading EU and GU on that same account. I'm only trading EU and dollar Swiss. So at my plan, I don't split the risk unless the pairs move the exact or almost the same. So if I was trading EU and GU on the same account, I would split the risk both ways, but I still keep it 1% now.
Nice, because you've seen even through natural drawdown periods that trading 2 pairs, as long as you're more wary of what is a high probability trade versus a low probability trade, you're not going to lose that account. Or it'd be very, very rare for that to happen. And you've also gone through that experience where that, okay, if that happens, I'll accept it and I move on. It's not the end of the world. And that's the headspace that you need to be at as a trader, where you've got that winning mindset overall, but like short term, it's more very neutral mindset. Like things come and go. As long as over every quarter or every year I'm up, that's the important thing. And you've already got that headspace and you're already switched on. I remember last time we had you on the YouTube channel, you already said that your emotions were in check. And I remember you saying that. And every time I see you type something into the community Discord, and every time I speak to you on Zoom, just everything you say is just like ticking all the boxes. I don't feel like I really have much advice or value to give you anymore because you're already there and you're killing it. So I really appreciate you coming on again. This is going to provide a lot of value to other traders out there and inspire a lot of people to keep doing what they're doing. But also really the moral of the story is that it's not just about passing funding challenges and making loads of money, right? It's about also having a risk management plan in place. It's things like, how much percentage are you willing to risk per trade? How many pairs are you willing to trade on one account? And what is your risk exposure by doing that? And also that if you lose account, you've got another one lined up, ready to go. So yeah, thanks again, Elijah, for coming on to the channel again. And congratulations with the 200K funding and good luck with the 400K. I know that I don't need to wish you anything because you already know what you're going to do. And have an incredible week.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate being a part of this community. It's really changed my life for the better, honestly, trading-wise and mindset-wise. The most important part was mindset-wise because I needed to build up the mental capital to be able to deal with the capital I'm trading now.
Absolutely.